task with each session. So this session will take your learning to the next level. And I want you guys to follow the sessions, and whatever tasks, challenges are provided with this session, implemented. This is completely practical training which is going to pave your path towards becoming GoldenGate expert. So follow the sessions, implement them practically, and my assurance upon completion of this session is you will have very good knowledge, understanding of GoldenGate. So on that note, let us start the session. So today is day one, as I mentioned. So first of all, about me, let me quickly introduce myself. I am expert in Oracle GoldenGate and Oracle database. I have 17 plus years of training experience in GoldenGate. I have various high-rated courses available on Oracle GoldenGate, which includes classic architecture, microservices, and Veridata. And I have trained more than 7,000 trainees and uh, taken 260 plus corporate clients as well. So feedback which I have received related to the training has been very good. So the agenda of this training. So the agenda of this training I have listed out in brief, but we discuss much more than that. So we will be discussing about introduction to Oracle GoldenGate, architecture of Oracle GoldenGate in this complete training, then Oracle GoldenGate upgradation from one version to another version, Oracle GoldenGate installation. So installation, how it differs between different versions, like 21C, how it differs from 19C GoldenGate installation. We'll be discussing about that. Then different concepts and components related to GoldenGate, how to perform DML replication in Oracle GoldenGate environment. So DML replication means insert, update, and delete, which requires exclusive commit. So we'll be discussing about that. Then GoldenGate supports initial load as well. So initial load is loading the data initially. So how to perform initial load using Oracle GoldenGate, we'll be discussing about that. Then data filtration and transformation using GoldenGate. So GoldenGate has capability to filter out the transactions and transform the data as well. So I'll tell you about this. I talk to a lot of students and they have a question. First of all is how GoldenGate differs from data guard. So we will be discussing during this training. You will get to know that how GoldenGate differs from data guard. So we will be discussing about that during the session as well. So how GoldenGate differs from data means you will get that understanding. Okay, and then we'll be discussing about bidirectional configuration, bidirectional auto CDI, which are all the new features of Oracle GoldenGate. Then how DDL replication, GoldenGate also supports DDL replication as well. So DDL replication means when you alter, delete, modify. So how GoldenGate can replicate that. We discuss about that as well. Then monitoring the lag. So we will discuss during the training the performance tuning of GoldenGate, how to ensure lag is reduced. So that comes under the performance tuning part. So we'll be discussing about that as well. So how to perform troubleshooting in GoldenGate, that is one of the major things. So during the training, we'll be discussing configuration, troubleshooting, performance tuning, then checkpoint of GoldenGate, how to configure security in GoldenGate environment. What are parameters and parameter files in Oracle GoldenGate? We'll be discussing about that. Then logdump utility to read the trail files. Then performance tuning, as I mentioned, parallel replicate, which is the new feature, heartbeat table, again, new feature, performance matrix server, GoldenGate self-describing trail files, and much more than that we'll be discussing in this training. So today's session agenda includes, this is day one session agenda. So day one session agenda includes introduction to Oracle GoldenGate, overview of Oracle GoldenGate, different types of architecture available in Oracle GoldenGate, what is Oracle GoldenGate Veridata, types of extracts and replicates, OGG 21C introduction, and also we'll be discussing about, like, I'll walk you through about the app as well as app and portal, and how to set up virtual boxes. Okay, so we'll be discussing about all these things today. So first of all, before we start, Oracle database architecture. So before I start, I'll give you a quick overview on GoldenGate basically. So GoldenGate was basically founded in 1995. It was named after famous San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. So it was a standalone company at that time. In 2009, Oracle overtook it, and since then it is known as Oracle Golden Gate. So Oracle Golden Gate was basically initially developed or founded for tandem databases. Since Oracle overtook it, then its use case was expanded to multiple databases and multiple platforms. Okay, so now GoldenGate works with different databases. So we have to understand what is GoldenGate. So GoldenGate is a CDC tool. CDC stands for Change Data Capture. That means whatever data changes happens in Oracle GoldenGate environment, GoldenGate captures those. So changes in form of insert, update, delete, that is DML transactions, or create, alter, modify, DDL transactions. So GoldenGate is a CDC tool which captures the changed data from source database and apply it to target database. So change data capture means capturing the changed data from source. One of the major thing you need to understand here is GoldenGate captures only committed transactions. It doesn't capture uncommitted transactions at all. So GoldenGate captures only committed transactions. That is the best part. So GoldenGate is a change data capture tool which captures the change data from source and apply to the target database, and it captures only committed transactions. It doesn't capture uncommitted transactions at all. Okay. So with GoldenGate works with Oracle as well as non-Oracle database. So GoldenGate works with Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, MySQL, Postgres, and other supported databases. So the support for Oracle GoldenGate is getting increased to multiple databases. Now, GoldenGate is a change data capture tool. So the best part with GoldenGate is the way GoldenGate works for Oracle database in the same way it works for non-Oracle database. So it's not like the functioning or the way GoldenGate works is different for different databases. The way GoldenGate works remains same whether it works for Oracle database, whether it works for non-Oracle database. So each database, so the question comes from where does GoldenGate captures the changes from? So each database has its own transaction logs where the change data is stored. So in case of Oracle, these transaction logs are called as redo logs or backup of redo logs, which are called as archive logs. So GoldenGate captures those changes from the redo logs or archive logs in case of Oracle database. So in case of SQL Server or MySQL, those are called as transaction logs. So whenever you do any insert, update, delete, so they go to the transaction logs. That is redo logs and archive logs in case of Oracle database. In case of SQL or MySQL or any other database, they go to transaction logs. So GoldenGate read these transaction logs and captures only committed transactions. So the transactions which are uncommitted, GoldenGate will not capture them until they get committed. Okay. So let us discuss about Oracle database architecture and how GoldenGate works on it. So Oracle database architecture. So guys, Oracle database architecture is a big topic, but I'm going to cover here what is relative to Oracle GoldenGate. So Oracle database is divided into two parts: instance and Oracle database files. Instance and Oracle database. Now instance is again divided into two parts: memory components and SGA. So SGA has different components like library cache, data dictionary cache, database buffer cache, Java pool, redo log buffer, and large pool, and others. The background processes include pmon, smon, database writer, log writer, checkpoint, and other. There are a lot of other background processes as well. Now, Oracle database, they contains the actual file. So data files are the files which contains the actual data. So when you do select star from employee table, from where do you get that data from? You get that data from these data files. Control files are the files which contains the metadata. These are the critical files of the database. So they contains the metadata information of Oracle database. Then you have redo log, redo log files. So redo log files are the files which contains the changes made to the database. So any DML or DDL transactions which gets returned to the database gets recorded here under redo log. Now redo log files are limited. The size of redo log file is defined as, like, say for example, total 200 MB or 300 MB. Right now, once they get filled, the backup of those redo log files is taken onto disk, and the backup of redo log files are known as archive log files. So these archive log files reside on the database. Sorry, these archive log files reside on the operating system. So backup of redo log files is called as archive log files. So whenever backup needs to be taken, or whenever your redo log files get full, the backup of those redo log files is taken onto disk, operating system, and those are called as archive log files. So for Oracle GoldenGate, they capture the transactions from, they get the transactions from redo log files or backup of redo log files, which are called as archive log files. So how this, the question comes, how does redo log files get the data from? So the way redo log files get the data from is, they get the data from this background process, which is called as log writer process. So what happens is, suppose you do update employee table. So one thing before I proceed, let me tell you, these redo log files or archive log files contains committed as well as uncommitted transactions. There is a misconception, even you talk to experienced DBAs, there is a misconception or misunderstanding, I would say, that redo log files or subsequently the backup of redo log files, which are archive log files, they contain only committed transactions. That's not true. These redo log files or transaction logs of the database contains committed as well as uncommitted transactions. GoldenGate captures only committed transactions from here. Okay. So how it happens is, suppose you do update employee table, set location equal to XYZ, where employee number equal to 1. So what happens is, that particular record will be taken from data files and will be returned into database buffer cache. Now that will become a dirty buffer. So once a buffer is updated or any change is made, that is called as a dirty buffer. Now that dirty buffer, once the update happens, what happens is, that dirty buffer gets returned to the redo log. It gets returned to redo log buffer. Now using this database writer process, the data from database buffer cache gets returned to data file, and with help of log writer process, the data from redo log buffer gets returned to redo log files. So log writer process writes data to redo log buffer, from redo log buffer to redo log file whenever there is commit. So whenever there is a commit transaction at the database, log writer process will write that. So these are the conditions at which log writer will be invoked and will write data to redo log files. First of all, if there is any commit. So if there is any commit, log writer will write the data to redo log file. Or when redo log buffer is 1/3 full. So suppose the size of redo log buffer you have defined as 1 GB. So when it is 333 MB full, log writer will write the data from redo log buffer to redo log file. Or when there is 1 MB of redo. So when there is 1 MB of redo in redo log buffer, at the very same moment it will write. Every 3 seconds or every 3 seconds. So whatever comes first in these scenarios, the action will be taken. So every 3 seconds, it will write the data from redo log buffer to redo log file. And before database writer process writes to writes from database buffer cache to data files. So as I told you, before database writer process writes from database buffer cache to data files. This log writer process writes data from redo log buffer to redo log files. Now you may ask, what is the purpose of this redo log file? Why do we have it? So the main or primary purpose of this is, suppose you went to the bank. Okay. You deposited $1,000 into bank. So earlier your balance was $10,000 and post update it should be 11,000. So you went to the teller, you gave $1,000 for deposit purpose. The teller took your money. At the front end, he or she deposited your money. But at the database level, before it could be returned into the data file. So whatever is shown to you on screen, that data comes from data file. Remember, when the changes were made, they were initially made change. The changes were initially present here. Now, before they could be returned from database buffer cache to data files, your database server got crashed. Your database got crashed. So, being a customer, are you going to bear the loss of $1,000? Of course not. It's not your problem. It's the database issue. So for that purpose, what happens is you have got this copy in redo log buffer and ultimately in redo log file. So what happens is when the database comes up later on, the recovery will happen from the data available in redo log files or from the archive. So these log files will be applied to the database, ensuring that your updated balance is $11,000. So that way you are not going to lose any data. So the purpose of these redo log files is to redo the data, to ensure that none of the transaction is lost due to server crash, due to database crash, or any other reason. See, data, we have to understand one thing. When we work as a DBA, we are the data custodian. You must have heard that term, data custodian. So we are the data custodian. Database contains the data. Say, for example, you have a bank account in State Bank of India or Royal Bank of Scotland or Bank of America. Do you know how much critical information they contain? They contain your name, they contain your phone number, they contain your email ID, they contain your address, home address, they contain your credit card details, they contain your debit card details, they contain your personal as well as financial information. And you are the data custodian of that. And suppose if anything happens to even a single record, do you understand how much penalty or how much loss a bank might have to suffer? So for that purpose, all these things are there, and we work in really very critical environment. So this is really very important. These redo log files or archive log files, or in case of other database like transaction log, they play a very important role. That's why earlier, or still now, we have data guard, which is the cheapest option for organization. Then we also have GoldenGate, which is used for duplication of data, which is used for standby, backup, for data filtration, transformation, and then business intelligence, zero time upgradation and migration. Multiple purposes are solved with that. So in case of Oracle, GoldenGate captures the transactions from redo log files or archive log files, which is backup of Oracle GoldenGate, which are backup of your redo log files, or which are the archive log files are backup of your redo log files. Okay. So in case of Oracle, these files are called as redo logs or archives. In case of non-Oracle, these are called as transaction logs of the database. These are called as transaction logs of the database. Okay. So GoldenGate has a lot of competitors. It's not like Oracle GoldenGate is the only player in the market, but still 95 to 97% of market is still done or is still captured by Oracle GoldenGate. Okay, so the biggest competitor of GoldenGate is Quest SharePoint. You might have heard about it. Then Activity is also there. Then there are other solutions available in the market like EMC Recover Point, IBM Meter, Hitachi True Copy, HP Continuous Access, Symantec Veritas Volume Replicator, Data Core Sand, Symphony, and Sand Melody as well. But their market share is very, very less. The major advantage with GoldenGate is it works with heterogeneous databases. It has the troubleshooting is easy. And the major and most important advantage of GoldenGate is it's a Oracle product. It works with heterogeneous database. And support wise, it's very good. Performance wise, it's very good. And it works very well with all the database, including Oracle database. So what are the advantage of Oracle GoldenGate? There are technical as well as financial reasons associated to it. What are the advantage of Oracle GoldenGate? So yes, I received in chat window SharePlex. Yeah, so SharePlex is one of the major competitor of GoldenGate, but still the market share of SharePlex. So it's next to GoldenGate, but you won't believe market share of SharePlex is only 2% right now. So you can see the difference between GoldenGate and SharePlex. Okay. Now, what are the technical reasons why GoldenGate is widely used? So with the GoldenGate, data is sent in real time with sub-second latency. So Omraj has a question. Are these GoldenGate competitors supporting non-Oracle databases? So there are some restrictions with each database. Some supports, some of them doesn't support, but most of them doesn't support. Most of them doesn't have that capability what GoldenGate has. I'll discuss about that in next few minutes. Then Akeem is saying yeah, Stream is also a product which is competitor of GoldenGate, but that's not widely or industry standard. Like only some organizations, there is some security related issues with that I heard. So I won't consider it as Oracle GoldenGate competitor. Now, any replication from Google? Uh, I'm not sure if there is any replication tool available from Google. I'm not sure about it. I'll have to check. Okay, now let us discuss about what are the technical reasons why GoldenGate is widely used. So, with GoldenGate, data is sent in real time with sub-second latency. Now, based on configuration and network, GoldenGate sends the data in real time with sub-second latency. Sub-second latency means as soon as data gets committed on source database, it gets applied on the target database as well. So GoldenGate replicates the data with sub-second latency. Of course, there are multiple components involved like designing, analysis of database, network. So we'll be discussing about all those things as the training progresses. But yes, GoldenGate sends the data in real time with sub-second latency. Sub-second latency means within like there is one term which you'll find on Oracle website and other places as well. GoldenGate is a real-time application. Guys, there is no product in world which is real-time. With GoldenGate or any other product you choose, you will find some latency, whether it is 1 second, whether it is 5 seconds, whether it is in milliseconds, but there will be some gap. So so Oracle market the product GoldenGate as real time, but being a technical guy, I have to give you the correct terminology and correct guidance as well. So I call it near real time. Near real time means there is definitely some lag. So real time means as soon as data gets applied on source at the very same time it gets applied. No, it's not like that. It is near real time where 5 to 7 seconds of latency is termed as good. Okay. Now, another advantage with GoldenGate is it supports heterogeneous environments across different databases and different and hardware types. So with GoldenGate, your source database can be Oracle or any supported non-Oracle database. Similarly, platform can be different. So your source database can be on Linux, target can be Sun Solaris. Source can be Windows, target can be Linux. GoldenGate can replicate the data without any issue. Now, GoldenGate delivers high performance with low impact. Now, I'll tell you another thing here is when you talk to Oracle guys or anyone, they say one thing is GoldenGate is a product which doesn't impact performance of the database. I highly disagree with it. GoldenGate is a product which is external to the database. Now, when you are putting any product onto the database, it establishes connection. So even if it is 0.1% or 0.001, it has some impact. So that's why I call it GoldenGate delivers performance, high performance with very low impact. But the thing is, the performance and usefulness it delivers to database, it suppresses whatever impact, minimal impact it has. And with introduction of this integrated extract and integrated replicate, the impact is now very less. What is integrated extract replicate? We'll be discussing about that in subsequent slides. Now, GoldenGate has ability to move large volume of data very efficiently. So GoldenGate can move your blob, clob, etc. as well very easily. No single point of failure. So troubleshooting GoldenGate is very easy. There are 3 processes involved in GoldenGate for replicating the data. Along with that, there are trail files and architecture we'll be discussing. So troubleshooting of GoldenGate is very easy. Okay. So now I will talk about the financial reason as well. Why GoldenGate is widely used or why there is so much demand of GoldenGate. You must have seen each job opening which comes. It has GoldenGate in it. Why? The reason being, see, Oracle database is still the biggest marketplace. Still, it has captured the market, right? Now, what happens is organize and most of and lot of products are Oracle product which is being used by any organizations, by top banks, top telecom companies, or any other domain, right? Now, Oracle nowadays, or not nowadays, it is quite old. So what happens is Oracle you can sign or Oracle persuade its customer to sign end user license agreement, which is also called as VILA. In that, when GoldenGate is included, they're free to use GoldenGate in any number of databases. They don't have to pay GoldenGate licenses separately. As per terms, they can use GoldenGate on any supported any number of databases, right? Based on terms, of course. Now, when they can use GoldenGate and the advantage it brings to the table. So what organizations do is they sign end user license agreement, they include GoldenGate, and hence because they can use GoldenGate now, they need people to monitor, configure, and manage Oracle GoldenGate environment. So that is one of the another reason why you see a lot of GoldenGate demand in the market as well. And apart from that, GoldenGate works with heterogeneous database. It is used for multiple purposes like zero downtime upgradation and migration. It is used for replication purpose. It is used for disaster recovery. It is for data transformation, data manipulation. It is used for data warehousing. So lot of things are there. Advantages of GoldenGate. Yeah, GoldenGate is a separately licensed product. GoldenGate is a product which is separately licensed. Yes. Now, another thing I'll tell you why GoldenGate scores above its competitors is you might have heard the term RPO and RTO. So RTO stands for recovery on time. How much time it takes to recover once any issue comes, right? So GoldenGate RTO and RPO time is very less in comparison to its competitors. So GoldenGate, of course, in terms of your recovery timing, it is very important. It is very good when we compare Oracle GoldenGate in comparison to its customers. Okay, so now GoldenGate complements your existing Oracle products as well. Okay, now it is best in class leader in real time data. It complements Oracle GoldenGate. It complements existing Oracle products like continuous availability for heterogeneous systems, real-time data access for reporting. So what many organizations do is they replicate the data from primary to standby server and they run their reporting jobs on secondary server. I'll give you one example. Those of you who are from India, at least they can relate to it. State Bank of India. It is one of the biggest bank, still the biggest bank in terms of data. And I was working for them in 2011. As a consultant, I was working for them. And it is one of the best use case I have ever worked on. Whatever GoldenGate I learned from that project. It was so complex. I really like, love that project. And I always give a reference to that project in each and every session of mine, webinar of mine or session or uh, if I have to give any reference. So State Bank of India, I was working for them in 2011. Okay. Now, at that time, their data size was 44 terabytes. I'm talking about that time. It must have increased. I'm not sure. It might have increased, cross 50 terabytes or more than that. Now, those of you who are from India, you can relate. SBI was losing its customers at that time. Why? Because the response time, the server used to be down a lot. They used to say server is not responding. So what did they mean by server? The database wasn't responding at that time because it is one of the biggest bank and their servers, their replication technology wasn't that great at that time. So what used to happen was they used to run their reporting jobs, a lot of reporting jobs on their OLTP environment during 9 to 5 when the banking environment is good, when the OLTP transaction need to happen, when customers come, right? So reporting jobs consume lot of database time. Okay. So when I analyzed their database, I suggested them, they were also using standby. They were also replicating the standby. So their primary server was kept in Mumbai, India, and the secondary server or standby server was kept in Hyderabad, India only. So they were using standby data guard at that time. But trust me, at night, they used to generate so much of archive. I have seen myself 100 GB of archives getting generated within time frame of 2 to 6 p.m. 2 to 6 a.m. midnight, post midnight. So the data size was so huge. The data guard used to lag behind 3 days. Hence, reporting jobs cannot run on data which is less than 3 days. So what I suggested was, let us create a secondary server. Using GoldenGate will replicate the data to that database, and then you can switch your reporting jobs to that particular server. And this is what we did, and you won't believe their response time increased a lot, database was reachable, and customer satisfaction increased as well. So the reporting jobs, so upon implementation of GoldenGate, it took almost, that project was 1.5 to 1.5 to 2 years project. We went through a lot of ups and downs, management approval. Like SBI is a government bank, and what happens in government is like they don't want to break anything until it requires a fix, and they thought it doesn't require a fix. But we persuaded them. I was working for TCS at that time. I was working for TCS, and SBI was my client. So it was one of the best project. And when they switched their reporting jobs, the customer satisfaction increased and a lot of things changed post that. Now they are using GoldenGate for net banking. They are using GoldenGate for online banking, everywhere they are using GoldenGate. They found it that much useful. Okay, that was the case study I wanted to share. Lot of things during training, as the sessions goes on, you will listen from me, my experiences, whatever I have done, and that might help you as well. So I will try to give as much as possible. Okay, now GoldenGate does provide real-time data for business intelligence, Exadata. So you can use GoldenGate as business intelligence tool as well. GoldenGate along with Informatica or ODI, Oracle Data Integrator, is one of the best business intelligence tool available in the market. Then GoldenGate is also used for zero downtime upgradation and migration as well for Oracle databases and applications. So over 400 customers with 400 implementations, like this number what you see, it's almost like 2011, right? Now all the top banks are using it. In fact, in India, Reserve Bank of India has made it mandatory to use Oracle GoldenGate for every bank. Or telecommunication providers, you name a telecommunication provider: Vodafone, Airtel in India, Rogers in Canada, Sprint in US. Everywhere GoldenGate is used. Sunrise Telecom in Switzerland, they're using GoldenGate. So food and drugs, so like Shoppers Drug Mart and other, they are also using Oracle GoldenGate. So GoldenGate is now used in all the sectors as well. Okay, there is a question: does GoldenGate supports NoSQL database? So the answer to this question will get you will get answer to that question in next couple of session. So this session, I want you to make, I will make you self-dependent. So I can answer that question, but I don't want to answer it. I'll let you answer it probably in the next or a session after. So wait for that. Okay. Now there's a question from Naveen: is classic architecture going to be deprecated from 21C? Again, that question will be answered for you in some time, but you will get answer to that question as well. Okay. Then what is is GoldenGate like DataGuard? No, there are a lot of differences between DataGuard and GoldenGate. Like I always say one thing: you can compare apple and apple, but you cannot compare apple and orange. That is what DataGuard and GoldenGate is. Though from top they seem like same, but the functionality purpose is completely different. That's why DataGuard is free software. GoldenGate is license, and the actual license cost of GoldenGate is pretty high, and that's why not all organizations can afford it. So there must be a reason. There must be some value for premium product, right? And that's why organizations pay for it. So at the end of this session, I'll try to cover some if possible. But yeah, during as the session and training goes on, you will get answer to this question. Okay. Now in GG, there is a question. In GG, can we use the replication database in open mode 2 in real time? So that question again will be answered as the session goes on. Not today, but as the session goes on. Okay. Now, GoldenGate supports high availability, zero downtime upgradation. So high availability means, what does high availability mean? So high availability means, suppose you have a primary database, primary server kept in Boston, and secondary server you're replicating data to New York, and that secondary server is getting replicated using GoldenGate. So the application is connected to Boston, and you're replicating data using GoldenGate to Boston. So because it's near real time. Now suppose there is electricity failure, some disaster in Boston. Your database is not reachable. So what you can do is, because all the data is available in your secondary database in New York, you just have to switch your application from Boston to New York, and your database will be highly available. Zero downtime upgradation and migration. So GoldenGate supports zero downtime upgradation and migration. Live reporting. So as I gave you the example, GoldenGate, you can use the secondary database as live reporting as well. Business intelligence. So these terms and these things: zero downtime upgradation, migration, business intelligence, all these things you'll learn during this session. We'll be discussing about that. Okay, now Oracle GoldenGate supports different databases and different platforms. This list is quite old. Now the support has been extended to a lot of new databases like Informix. So these are few of the listed one like Oracle, IBM DB2, Microsoft SQL Server, Sybase, Ingress, Teradata, Enscribe. So GoldenGate initially was founded in 1995 and it was developed to support this uh, Enscribe database. Okay, now the support has been extended to so many databases. Now, GoldenGate supports different OS and platforms like Windows, Linux, Sun Solaris, HP. Almost all the platforms are supported apart from these listed ones. Okay. Now, there is a question or there is a solution. Basically, I would say there is the SPI problem you shared. A cascaded standby be created and reporting can be redirected to that cascaded standby. Wouldn't that be a cheaper solution? See, you are absolutely correct, Mayur. Cheaper solution do exist, but when we talk about the data volume in comparison to like when we talk about State Bank of India, their main solution is not to go cheap but to find a solution which can give them long time benefits. Like I'll tell you, what if I tell you that at that time when the problem was there for them, they used to face daily, due to that issue, they used to face daily loss of 5 crores. Daily loss of 5 crores. Upon completion or upon implementing this GoldenGate solution, they saved almost, they were able to save 90% of cost per day after implementing. So what you are saying is absolutely correct. Cheaper solutions are available, but cheaper solutions are available for problems which are small. For problems which are high, we have to ensure that like there are different things involved. So yes, GoldenGate was the best solution and still they are using it a lot. But yeah, what you are saying, I won't deny that. Okay. Okay. There is a question. Does it support postures too? I think you mean Postgres. I'm not sure about postures, what you mean by. But yeah, I believe if you mean Postgres. So again, as I mentioned, that question I can answer, but I won't answer. I'll let you answer probably in next session or couple of session after it. Does it support my MySQL community addition to Oracle? Again, you can answer that afterwards. So any support, anything, we'll be discussing about that, what databases it supports or how you can identify. We'll be discussing. Does it support RHEL? Again, same thing, Becky. So support wise, whatever it is, we'll be discussing, or you can answer it on your own. You don't need me. If anything comes, like if you have to say that, if you have to answer a particular question, what it supports, you can answer it yourself. So I want you to hold on to next couple of sessions if you're joining. That's it. Okay. Now, so GoldenGate is a near real-time replication. Now let us discuss about different types of architectures available in GoldenGate. Now, at the start of this session, I told you that this is 21C classic architecture. Now, what does classic architecture mean? And in fact, what is classic architecture? Now, there are two types of architectures in GoldenGate. One is classic, second is microservices architecture. So two types of architectures are called as, one is Oracle GoldenGate classic architecture and second is called as Oracle GoldenGate microservices architecture. So as I told you earlier, GoldenGate was founded in 1995 and it was a standalone company at that time. In 2009, Oracle overtook it. Since then, it is known as Oracle. Now, from 2009 to 2017, there was only one way to configure GoldenGate, and that was through command prompt. GGSCI, right? Until 2017, it was called as Oracle GoldenGate. In 2017, Oracle renamed it to Oracle GoldenGate Classic Architecture. So Oracle GoldenGate Classic Architecture allows you to set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure GoldenGate through GGSCI. So you can set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure GoldenGate through GGSCI command prompt. In 2017, Oracle launched a new architecture of GoldenGate, which is called as Oracle GoldenGate Microservices Architecture. Oracle GoldenGate Microservices Architecture. So Oracle GoldenGate Microservices Architecture was introduced in 2017. It is the latest architecture where things runs as a service. So Oracle GoldenGate Microservices Architecture allows you to set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure GoldenGate through GUI as well. So you can monitor GoldenGate, set up GoldenGate through GUI as well. So GoldenGate Microservices was launched in Oracle GoldenGate version 12.3. Now, until GoldenGate version 12.2, only classic architecture. There was no microservices. Only classic architecture. From 12.3 to 21C, classic and microservices architecture coexist. That means you can choose what type of architecture you want to implement in your environment based on available support. So you can choose either classic or microservices, whatever you want to choose. Okay, if it's supported, of course. Now, post 21C, it will only be microservices. Classic architecture will be deprecated, for which microservices is available. So for the databases for which microservices architecture is available, remember microservices architecture is not available for all the databases. So whatever databases microservices architecture is available for those databases, classic architecture will no longer be there and it will be deprecated. Okay. So classic architecture is there since beginning. Now let me tell you one thing. 80% of implementations, or maybe more than that, are still there on classic architecture. So high probability is if you go out into the market, it is still possible that you might find classic architecture still. You might find classic architecture still to be worked on, because microservices architecture is still, I should not say it's new. It was launched in 2017. It's 6 years old, but still the expertise or knowledge of microservices architecture is very limited still. Okay, so Oracle GoldenGate Classic Architecture is command prompt based architecture, and it is when you set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure GoldenGate through GGSCI. Oracle GoldenGate Classic Architecture is available for Oracle as well as non-Oracle databases. Now, post 21C, that is until 21C it is available. Post 21C, it is deprecated. That means from 23C onwards, it will only be microservices architecture. GoldenGate microservices. It is available from Oracle GoldenGate 12.3 version on. So from GoldenGate 12.3 version, microservices architecture was introduced. It allows you to set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure GoldenGate through GUI. Then it allows for better integration with cloud applications as well. Now, it was available for only Oracle databases until 19C. So until 19C, GoldenGate microservices was available only for Oracle database. That means for non-Oracle database, it was not available. So when we talk about this version here, until and unless mentioned, this means it is GoldenGate version we are talking about. So it was available for only Oracle databases until GoldenGate version 19C. From 19C version onwards, GoldenGate microservices support is now extended for 5 databases, which includes MySQL, DB2, SQL Server, Postgres, as well as big data adapters. It has been introduced. So prior to 19C, only you could do classic architecture for these databases, the MySQL, DB2, SQL Server, Postgres. But now you can use microservices architecture. From 12.3 to 21C, classic and microservices architecture both coexist. Okay, so there is one question which I receive regularly is, with the introduction of microservices, does it mean integrated has been deprecated or integrated is no longer available? Does anyone else has that question? If yes, post in the chat window with the answer yes. I'll answer that question in next few minutes. So I again ask the question, with the introduction of microservices, does integrated no longer exist? We'll be discussing about that in next few minutes. Okay, now I am receiving a lot of yes here, so that's good. That question will be answered for you in the next slide. Wait for a few minutes. Okay, now there is one question which is very good. How to decide which is best architecture? Whether we should go with classic architecture or microservices architecture. So the answer to that question is, see, both of them, the way GoldenGate works will remain same, whether it is classic or microservice. It depends on your expertise. It depends on which one you are comfortable with. We being in GoldenGate. But if you ask my question or my methodology or my ideology, I would always go with the latest supported thing, whatever is there. So if you think microservices is there, go with microservices, because ultimately now, since we know that classic architecture is going to be deprecated, and in future, not now maybe, but 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years down the line, definitely you will have to upgrade to microservices. As of now, Oracle doesn't have any plan to de-support or not providing any support to classic architecture. The simple reason being classic architecture is still the dominant player. But yeah, still if you see, lot of new implementation happens still on classic architecture. Okay. Now another question is, when you start learning, very good question. Should we start with classic or microservices? Now that is very good question. And if I have to answer that, my answer to that question would be, see, when you learn classic architecture, because classic architecture is command prompt based, you internally know how things are working. When you learn classic architecture first and then microservices, learning becomes very easy for you. Understanding microservices becomes very easy. You know internally how things are working. It's not like if you learn microservices, you will face issue. No, that's not the case. You will have very good knowledge, understanding of microservices, and especially in my courses, what I do, I start all my courses from basics and covers up to advanced level. So microservices as well, it will start from basic. But the thing is, if you ask my suggestion, I always say learn classic architecture first, because that will help you in building the foundation. Because when you directly work on GUI, you don't know internally how things are working. And I have to also give you one analogy for it. Like people, when I started working directly on if I have to talk about this Windows, I directly started working on Windows GUI. Now the people who were before me, they knew DOS. They started working on DOS, so they internally knew how things were working internally Windows. For me, I was just clicking on new folder, right clicking, creating new folder, doing the refresh or those things. I was just following. I was just flowing with the flow. But when you are work on command prompt, you can see internally how things are, right? So that's my only 2 cents. So if you, being a mentor, if you ask my suggestion, I always say learn classic architecture. If you learn classic architecture first, learning microservices will be pretty easy and good for you. And another important thing is, because still, as I told you, 80% of implementations are still on classic. if you go to see the major reason for learning Golden Gate is for growth and salary. So still, if you go out into the market, if you see classic architecture still, and then subsequently you will be doing microservices. Yeah. So we'll be in this training, we'll be also discussing about how to upgrade from classic to microservices. Okay. Now there is one. So still there is a question left for us with the introduction of microservices. Does integrated no longer exist? Wait for a couple of more minutes. I'll answer. Before that, I want to discuss about Veridata. Now there is one more product in GoldenGate family which is called as Oracle GoldenGate Veridata. How many of you have heard about that? If yes, type in the chat window as yes. So Oracle GoldenGate Veridata. What is GoldenGate Veridata first of all? So Veridata, that's good. I'm receiving yes over here. So that's good if you have heard. And how many of you know what it is? Type yes if you know. If you don't know, type no. Okay. So Veridata is a product, as the name suggests, it verifies the data for you. So GoldenGate is a replication tool, right? It replicates it. But no technology in this world is error proof. Each technology in this world is error proof. And I always say one thing: if I means being a GoldenGate administrator, I'm being selfish. If there are no issues in any environment, there is no need for me or you. There is no need for you to learn GoldenGate. There is no need for me to teach GoldenGate. There is no need, I would be out of work as well. So always issues are good, right? So the thing is, if and none of the technology in this world is error proof as well. And that's what I mentioned, right? So the thing is, there might be a case that few data is missing between source and target. Now you want to identify what data is missing between source and target. So there are couple of ways. Either you write SQL queries or you do your self manual checks. But in that case, you will have to stop the replication or there will be load on the database. Another option is Veridata. You run the Veridata job. It will provide you the report, how much data is, how much discrepancy is there between source and target. So say, for example, on source, you have 10,000 records in a table. On target, you have 9,000 records. So what Veridata can do for you is it can identify the discrepant records and it can repair those discrepancies as well for you. Okay. So Oracle GoldenGate Veridata is used to verify the data. It is used to find the data discrepancies between source and target. So say, for example, on source, you have 10,000 records. On target, you have 9,000 records in a table. So what Veridata can do for you is it can identify the discrepant records and it could repair those discrepancies as well for you. Now, GoldenGate family includes your classic architecture, microservices, and Veridata. So any question related to, now let us talk about career as well. So if you go out for any interview, any job, anything related to GoldenGate in the market, any GoldenGate query will come either from classic and or microservices and or Veridata. None of the GoldenGate query will go out of these three things: classic, microservices, and or Veridata. Okay, so any GoldenGate question will come from these three only. Also, if you're looking to be GoldenGate certified, GoldenGate certification questions come from these. None of the question will go out of these. Okay. Now let me answer that question for you. Different types of extracts and replicates available. So now my question was, with the introduction of microservices, does integrated no longer exist? Guys, microservices and classic, there are only two types of architectures available. One is classic architecture and second is microservices architecture. There are only two types of architectures available. There is nothing like integrated architecture. Now let us talk about different types of extracts and replicates. So integrated is type of an extract. So what is an extract? We'll be discussing during later part of the session. But just to give you a quick overview, GoldenGate has extract and replicate. So extract process captures the data and replicate process applies the data, right? So there are two types of extracts available in Oracle GoldenGate. One is classic and second is integrated. One is classic and second is integrated extract. So classic extract is available since beginning of Oracle GoldenGate. Integrated extract was available from GoldenGate version 11.2.04 and database version 11.2.03. So GoldenGate version, so integrated extract is available from GoldenGate version 11.2.04 and database version 11.2.03 Oracle database. Remember one thing, integrated extract is only available for Oracle database. It's not available for non-Oracle. But for that, your minimum database version should be 11.2.03 and database and GoldenGate version should be 11.2.04. Then there is classic extract. Classic extract is available for Oracle as well as non-Oracle databases. Now there are different types of replicates as well. First is non-integrated or classic replicate. So when GoldenGate was introduced, there was only one type of replicate. So remember one thing, why there is confusion among people, why they get confused between classic term and integrated or microservices. Classic means it is traditional one. So initially when GoldenGate was introduced, there was only one type of extract that was called as extract, GoldenGate extract. When integrated was introduced, they renamed the existing one to classic. Same way, when integrated replicate was introduced, they renamed the existing one to non-integrated or classic replicate as well. Okay, then integrated replicate is there. Integrated replicate was introduced from GoldenGate version 12.1 and database version 12c. Then coordinated replicate was introduced in GoldenGate version 12.1. And now there is a latest replicate which is called as parallel replicate. It is performance wise, it is very good. What it is, we'll be discussing about that during the training part. So parallel replicate applies the data in parallel mode. It increases the performance of Oracle GoldenGate environment. So there are two types of parallel replicate. So non-integrated mode running in parallel mode is called as parallel non-integrated replicate, and integrated replicate running in parallel mode is called as parallel integrated replicate. So to use the parallel non-integrated replicate or parallel integrated replicate, to use the parallel non-integrated replicate, the database version should be 12.1 and GoldenGate version should be 12.3. So parallel replicate support was introduced from GoldenGate version 12.3. To use parallel integrated replicate, your database version should be 12.2 and GoldenGate version should be 12.3. Now what are these different types of replicates or extract? You will be understanding during this session as the session goes on. But just to give you overview, integrated is type of extract and replicate. So with the introduction of microservices, it's not like integrated is no longer there. There are two types of architectures. One is classic and second is microservices. Under classic architecture, you have got different types of extract and different types of replicates, which include integrated extract, classic extract, or different types of replicate, which include non-integrated, integrated, coordinated, or parallel replicate. Similarly, under microservices architecture, you can configure different types of extracts and replicates, which include integrated and classic replicate. And for replicate, it includes non-integrated, integrated, coordinated, or parallel replicate. Parallel replicate is again of two types, parallel non-integrated and parallel integrated replicate. So I hope that question is well answered for you with the introduction of integrated, with the introduction of microservices does parallel no longer exist? Any question if you have, you can post in the chat window.